Hi, everybody. Bubbleopolis is a fantasy children's book story written to rhyme that talks about the nature of autistic relationships. I first created it in 2014 to explain to my youngest daughter the difference that her older brother kind of experienced. She didn't understand why he wouldn't speak. So, in an effort to explain it in my own way, I created a series of paintings that I got crowdfunding for and had some publications and papers about. And it was each painting was about 7 foot by 7 foot in average size, and they were oil paintings. All of them were oil paintings. And then I finally got publication, but my publishing house dropped its children's book department, which was very sad. So I wanted to be able to release this, and right now, since everybody's kind of stuck at home, if you're just interested in the subject, or if you want to explain to them or take them through something personal that relates to autistic relationships, I just wanted to put this on YouTube for free right now, and I hope it helps anyone. And please let me know and give me any feedback you can. This project has meant a lot to us.
Bubbleopolis, story and art by Ben Salas. Wilhelmina Piccolina, the fairy princess of ballerinas, was done with recital that day. It was clear and warm until a dark purple storm had stolen her attention away. There were cyclones and triclones surrounding the palace, and hail falling left, right, and center. It went 29 minutes, and when it was finished, the sky was soft pink and magenta. It looked so intriguing, so calm and appealing, so Wilhelmina stepped out to see. And to her delight, she saw such a sight, a tornado caught up in her tree. Not just any tree, her favorite, you see. It was covered with apples and dishes. It came from a fairy quite extraordinary who granted first birthday wishes. When Mina was one, it was what she wanted, though now it did seem quite absurd. Still, the cyclone must leave, for it's only a baby and needs to get back to its herd. So Mina climbed up and tried to shake free the trembling little cyclone, but the tornado was scared. It reached into the air and tried to get back to its home. Mina yelled out, "I'm not going to hurt you," and she offered the cyclone her hand. The branches were shaking, some dishes were breaking, the tree's roots were ripping the land. When it finally broke free, so quick and forcefully, it pulled everyone up in its spinning. It was like a carousel, and as far as one could tell, Wilhelmina was laughing and grinning. But soon she was worried. The cyclone had scurried way up past the clouds in the sky. She looked down below, and wouldn't you know, a small castle was floating on by. The dishes and apples were all spinning around. She had to store them underneath her gown. She couldn't miss her chance. She did her magic dance to calm the tornado down. Mina pleaded, "Please, cyclone, we really must land," and a plea from a princess is a royal command. On the ground, Mina saw wonders so grand. The castle blew bubbles and played like a band. There were chandeliers hanging, with guitar strings dangling, with trumpets and cymbals and drums. Mina was astounded the way the music sounded. The sea and the heavens held two setting suns. There were bubble dolphins jumping. It really was something. There were wands blowing bubbles everywhere. Mina was in awe of this castle. Then she saw an 8-tailed cat, but she tried not to stare. For an 8-tailed cat must be quite agile, but its delicate ego might make him feel fragile. Should you ever meet a cat like that, don't worry, just offer a catnip satchel. There were arches that curved and walkways that swerved and bubbles blowing up and down. At the edge of the steps, with a bubble to his chest, was a boy with a transparent crown. Mina went up to meet him and explained to the princess of her woes and her sorrows and troubles. She didn't want a hassle, but she must find her castle. But the little prince only said, "Bubbles." She was very confused. He would not look at Mina. She sat down and began softly pouting. And she started to cry, but just then she thought, why don't I take the prince on a royal outing? Mina was a princess and always was proper. She gathered the apples, plates, cups, and the saucers. They sat out on the clouds where it wouldn't be so loud, and Mina proposed him an offer. "If you'll just fly me home, I'll have this castle blown right back to these clouds on the double." And a grunt and a wince came out of the prince, and he opened his mouth to say, "Bubbles." Mina pondered and wondered and scratched her head under her crown for another idea. Then the cat started purring. His tail was holding a wand for Princess Wilhelmina. It wasn't for magic like the wand that she had. It made bubbles and nothing much more. Mina looked at the cat, and she noticed that his tails were pointing to a door. She went inside to see what on earth it could be, and the cat and the prince came along. It was a room of magic with ladders to an attic where a giant machine played a song. The bubble prince climbed up, put some bubbles in his cup, which he then poured into a flugelhorn. The melody was changing, instruments were rearranging, quite amazing, but poor Mina still felt torn. She missed her fairy castle and all the ballerinas. Wilhelmina just had to get back home. She was feeling very sad, and what made it worse? She saw the mom and dad of the little cyclone. The tornado spun a goodbye, Princess Mina started to cry, and the prince came and took her hand. As he pointed outside, Mina's little eyes spied the shore of her fairy land. He was taking Mina home, past the froggets and gnomes, past the lakes and the rivers and puddles. The Prince of Bubbles kissed her nose, gave Wilhelmina a single pink rose, and softly whispered in her right ear, "Bubbles." As the princess stepped out, the eight-tailed cat purred. They all said goodbye with just smiles, not words. Wilhelmina thought of her bubble adventure, of all the sights seen and all the sounds heard. She learned some things that day, like patience and love and trust for royal princes in the sky. Some are loud, some are proud, some are silent or awkward, and may seem like they're just floating by. Some princes need bubbles and hanging guitars along with attention and love, for it's hard not to feel so very far away when you're floating so sky high above. And if someone is silent, they still hear what you say, but it's loud in a castle where the bands always play, and up in the clouds where the ground tends to sway, it requires attention to walk the right way. Wilhelmina laid in bed, and she thought to herself how lucky she was to have wings, for whenever he comes by, Mina only needs to fly to blow bubbles and hear guitar strings. And although it's important, being a fairy princess and dancing with ballerinas, it's as noble a mission to try and truly listen for love, thought Princess Wilhelmina. The end.
All right, this is Asher and Mina. These are the stars of the Bubbleopolis story. And Mina was the inspiration for Princess Wilhelmina, and Asher was the inspiration for the Bubble Prince. And would you guys like to tell us any of the memories that you have of this story?
I remember going on a platform right next to the painting with my fairy wings on.
And Ash, for Bubbleopolis, do you remember?
Tickles!
Do you remember all the big paintings that we did in the basement with Bubbleopolis?
Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody.